My 35M girlfriend, 24F, wants me to act like a horse when we are in bed, and I'm not into it. The last story has a crazy turn of events. Be sure to watch till the end. Only 1% of you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure to subscribe for more guilty pleasures. Anti-preview trivia. In the 1960s, there was a CIA plan to implant microphones in cats and use them to spy on the Kremlin. The first attempt to use it allegedly failed when a cat dropped outside the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., wandered off, and was hit by a taxi, and the program was dissolved shortly thereafter. The CIA disputes this version, claiming that training the cats was too difficult, and that was why the program ended. Either way, imagine that planning room. Great mental image. Much better than what you're about to hear. So, tiny bit of backstory, my girlfriend of 6 months loves horses, has all her life. An additional seemingly relevant point is, during bedtime, she sometimes says stuff like, "Frick me with that horse rod." I've never thought much of it. I thought that was just a way of her saying it's big. But she started to take it further, and it's turned into a bit of a fetish that I'm not entirely comfortable with. A few days ago, she told me she wanted to roleplay, and at first I was pretty on board, but then she said as horses. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, and she took it the wrong way, and said she was tired and then went to sleep. I said frick it, and, trying to make her feel better, said I'd do it the following day. Honestly, it was okay, but very, very weird. She got so into it and said it was the best she ever had, and next time wanted to buy costumes, and maybe do it on some hay. I told her no and I didn't want to do it again, and she's back to being mad at me. Am I being an asshole here? I don't know what to do. Sorry if wrong sub. Just wanted a second opinion. Update. Jan 16, 2019. Hi guys, thank you for all the responses, even if 90% of them were puns. I can appreciate the funny side of this, so it's all good. I saw my GF last night at her place and we talked about things. She apologized for being distant, and I apologized if I kink-shamed her, as some said I did. She said she's unsure where her attraction comes from, but did say she had her first sexual experience on a horse. The thing is, I'm getting older and need to reproduce. In every other way, she is perfect and would make a great mother to my children. We've only been together 6 months, but I haven't felt this way since I first met my ex-wife. Maybe I'm crazy, but I've ordered a horse mask and a dragon rod off Amazon to surprise her. She keeps saying how glad she is that she doesn't have to keep it a secret anymore. In a way, I'm glad too, and honestly I'm surprised I didn't realize sooner. Now I get why she always calls me her stallion. Yeah, it's a weird situation, but who knows? Maybe I'll grow to like it. I know people were making fun of the age gap, what can I say? Grandpa wants to get his stick wet. In seriousness, I'm getting too old to be picky, so I think we're gonna make it work. Story 2. I messed up really bad and said something awful to my boyfriend when I was drunk, and don't know how to fix it. Before I get started, I just want to say I know I fucked up and I am the asshole here. My boyfriend is a wonderful human being who loves me and only deserves the best. Okay, so like I said, I, 29F, have a wonderful, wonderful boyfriend, 28M, and we live together. He had a bit of a rough time with finding work, and he started a job at the post office where he works very hard and works 40, 60 hours a week. I'm only saying this next part because it's necessary to the situation, but I make more than he does and work less hours than him, and we're struggling with some unexpected finances right now, and it's been causing some tension between us. Last night I went to a bar with some coworkers, and I stayed out later than I should have, and came home at 2:30 a.m. pretty drunk. My boyfriend was up waiting for me, and told me he was worried about me, and I asked why he stayed up, and he told me he was waiting for me and I shouldn't be out that late on a night when I have work the next day. I don't know why this set me off, but I got very angry and told him he had no right giving me job advice, since he doesn't have a real job and can't even afford to pull his weight like a loser. He told me he thought I should go to bed and walked me over to my room and helped me get my shoes and dress off, and I just got in bed and lied down to go to sleep. But the worst part was as I was drifting off, I heard him crying in the bathroom. When I woke up this morning, he had gone to work, and now I'm at work hungover, which sucks. However, I have no idea what to say to him now. He should be home tonight, but I don't know what I can do at this point to let him know how sorry I am and how much I do admire him and was just acting out of drunken stress last night. He loves steak and potatoes, and he's also a big movie guy, so I was thinking of making him steak and potatoes and renting a movie, but I just don't know. Any advice would be appreciated. TLDR. Last night I was drunk and told my boyfriend, who makes less than I do, that he was a loser and that his job wasn't a big boy job. And I heard him crying afterwards, and now I don't know how to fix my colossal fuck-up. Update March 16th, 2024, 5 days later. Update. I messed up really bad and said something awful to my boyfriend when I was drunk and don't know how to fix it. So I've been meaning to write this for 4 days, but I have just been completely wiped of all emotion bandwidth. My boyfriend is working hard at his job right now and is racking up some overtime, so I figured I'd take a moment to post it. First off, some information I left out of my prior post. In case anyone didn't notice, I don't respond well to alcohol. I have no dependency on it, but my self-control and decision-making is really not good when I'm drunk, and I just get extremely vicious, and it brings out the absolute worst in me. On that same note, I had a group of coworkers who have been wanting to celebrate a promotion one of us got for the past 2 months, and Sunday was the first time any of us were free, so we were just gonna have a Sunday afternoon chill that was gonna end before 10. However, one bad decision led to another, and we all just collectively stayed until 2 a.m. with drinks. Second, I said what I did out of an annoyance, upset I had with him, regarding some financial decisions over the past 2 years that we're now reaping the benefits of. Long story that frankly doesn't matter because it's not about that. I'm still a little unhappy about it, and I expressed that in a very unhealthy manner. I'm so proud of him for finding a job and trying to provide for us. Now for the update, I read through the comments all afternoon, and then I wrote down a map of the things I wanted to say and waited for him to get home. Additionally, I got in contact with my old therapist, and he was able to squeeze me in for the following morning, so I called out of work the next day to meet him. My boyfriend finally came through the door, and I asked if we could talk, and he said I could, but he also had some things to say. I started by saying I had no idea what to say to express how sorry I am, except that I shouldn't have said what I said, and I love him and admire him for how hard he works. I also told him that I was going to stop drinking, and I had an appointment with my therapist the next day. I also emphasized how much I appreciated how he waited for me and helped me get to bed after I came home, and how he absolutely didn't deserve what I said. He told me that I actually covered the bases of what he was going to say. He said he was very hurt by what I said, but throughout the day he was thinking and said it was so out of character for me, he actually started to get worried. Both of his parents were alcoholics at one point in his life, but got sober, and he told me he was going to tell me I needed to quit drinking and see a therapist or anger management counselor, or else he couldn't stay in this relationship. I told him I thought that was a very fair and sensible boundary, and I would do my best to do whatever I could. Then he asked if I could be honest, and asked me if I meant what I said. I told him I was being purposely vicious because it came from a place of frustration. But I was intentionally trying to upset him, so I said something terrible things. He said he'd love to talk to me about that place of frustration, but then wasn't the time for it. But he told me that he forgave me and was really happy and admired that I'm taking the right steps to make things better, and we had a lovely long hug. Then I had a really emotional appointment with my therapist, and I told him everything that happened, and he helped me map out my feelings and how to express them to my boyfriend. The appointment went great, and I have another next week, but he thinks I should look into seeing a psychiatrist because I may very well have an undiagnosed mental health condition. That's the next step, definitely. On Wednesday, I had a sit-down with my boyfriend, where I expressed the frustrations and he told me my feelings were valid, and frankly, he still kicks himself. He didn't start a new job earlier too because then his credit card debt probably wouldn't be so high, and he talked about how he's always felt like he let me down with his financial decisions being unemployed for such long periods of time. I won't get into it any further, but we had a really productive conversation. So yeah, we're taking steps and are openly communicating with each other, and it looks like we're gonna be okay. We've been snuggling together at night, and this morning we even showered together before he went to work. I have some trust issues, so I'm still very anxious he's going to come back and be like, wait, actually, no, I don't forgive you. But he's promised me he's going to be open with how he feels, which he has been. I think we're gonna be okay. TLDR. I apologized to my boyfriend and we agreed I was going to go therapy and get sober in order for the relationship to survive. And we've been discussing our feelings a lot in the last few days. And I think we're going to be okay. Story 3. New update. My 28F fiancé 29 Nens wants me to put his family before mine, even at the expense of my family's health. Throw away as my work friends are on my main and they don't know this is going on. Also, obligatory, that this is on mobile so spelling and grammar will be poo. This is a long one, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I, 28F, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, Rob, 29M, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. His brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't get here for that meal. So we decided to have a meal just for his family in late June, when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kim, 32F, got a serious eye infection that very quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at a high risk of a perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have it. However, her eye didn't hold, and it perforated the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with ours brother. Kim's wife was at work and had her phone turned off, and our mom was away with our stepdad. So when Kim called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at the hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss, and he let me go early so Kim wasn't on her own. I texted Rob to let him know what was going on, and he texted me back to send Kim his love and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored the comment about the meal, as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I got to the hospital, I was taken back into a room where Kim was, to be greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses rushing around trying to help Kim. I was then informed that she needed to have an emergency operation to have her eye glued, or else she would lose it. The problem was that they didn't have a surgeon at that hospital that could do it, and she needed to go to another hospital an hour and a half away. They asked if she would need transportation, or if I could take her. I said I would take her. Once we got to the other hospital, we were told that she would be having the operation at 5:30 p.m. I knew then that I wouldn't make the dinner and text Rob to let him know. He flipped out and basically told me to leave Kim at the hospital and have her wife pick her up after the op was done. At this point, I still hadn't been able to get a hold of Kim's wife. I told him that wasn't going to happen, and that he was out of order to even ask me to do that. I then texted his mom and told her what was going on. She was really supportive and told me to stay with Kim and let her know how the op goes. A dinner can be rescheduled, Kim's health can't. I also spoke with his brother, who was equally as understanding. I stayed with Kim, her operation was a success, and I got her back home about 9 p.m. Her wife had ordered some Chinese and offered me some, which I happily accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. With that, I didn't get home till about 11 p.m., and Rob was already asleep. Rob was very short with me for days after, and we ended up having a huge fight where he told me that I should have put his brother and family before Kim. He said he was embarrassed going to the meal without me. I responded that I was embarrassed, though I would put a meal before my sister's health. This led to another week of awkwardness between us before we finally sat down and we sorted it out. Or so I thought. 8 weeks ago, Kim got her graft, and so far everything is going really well with it. On Saturday, his brother was here, so we went out for dinner with his family. His family were all asking about how Kim was doing, and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. I thought that everything had gone really well until we got home, and he got really angry saying that I shouldn't have brought up Kim's health issues and I shouldn't have shown them the picture. I argued that they'd asked about her and asked to see the picture. It ended with him telling me that I needed to put him and his family before Kim, or else we weren't going to work. His family will come before mine once we are married, so I should get used to it. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I'm now at my mom's house, and he's been bombarding me with text and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never put his family above my own family's health. I feel like he's expecting me to spend every holiday with his family and put their wants above my family's needs, which won't happen. I'm very close to my sister and my mom. That's not going to change. So I don't really know how to move forward or if I even want to. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? TLDR. My fiancé got mad that I missed a dinner with his family because my sister needed emergency surgery and I was the only one available to take her. He is now insisting that I put his family before my own. I don't know how to move forward with him. Edit. For some reason it won't let me do a full update post even on my own page, so I'm just gonna add it to here. Thank you so much for everyone that commented. I replied to as many as I could, but I read all of them. Warning. This is going to be longer than the original post. A lot has happened. TLDR. For those that just want a quick update, I left him and he's out of my house. His mom is seriously pissed at him and his brother has gone no contact with him for the foreseeable future. For those that want a longer version. Once I'd decided to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I own the house outright. My grandma died 5 years ago and left her house to my mum, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I then bought my house with that money about a year after she died. I got in touch with my stepdad's friend, who was a landlord the day after I wrote my original post, who then put me in touch with his solicitor. He didn't have time to see me in person that day, but we did have a phone call where he gave me my options. In the UK, we have something called a Section 8 notice. This is a 14-day eviction notice, and the solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out. However, he could try and contest it if he wanted to, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draw up the notice and date it for Friday, the next day. I'd already made the decision to end things with him after work on Friday, so that he could have the weekend to sort through his emotions before work on Monday. On Friday morning, I texted Rob and asked him to meet with me at our local pub after work. He quickly agreed. Not only is the pub a public space, but my stepdad and a few of his work friends go in there every Friday after work for a few pints, so I knew he would be there to step in if I needed him. Thank you for suggesting this, Redditors. I also picked up the eviction notice on my lunch break, so I was ready to give it to him. Cost $250, but was worth it. When I got to the pub, Rob was already there and my stepdad was stood at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with Rob and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over. I couldn't be with someone who didn't give me any support when I was going through one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to drop my family for his. It didn't matter what excuses he could come up with. I wasn't interested. I'd made up my mind and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour, but was probably only a minute or so. He then started saying I couldn't be serious. We'd been together for 7 years, and I was throwing it all away. I could never find another guy like him. I responded to the last comment with, I don't want a guy like you, that's why I'm ending it. I need someone who will support me when times get tough, not get annoyed that the world isn't bowing down to what he wants. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice in and my engagement ring. I told him I was giving him a few weeks to find a place and be out of my house. Then I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking in shock. I knew he wouldn't approach me whilst I was with my stepdad, as he has always been. A little scared of him. This is obviously a very condensed version of what happened. Once I got back to my mom's house, I had one single text from him, saying he wasn't moving out and was going to contest the eviction until I'd come to my senses and got back with him. "We are not over," was how he ended the text. I just turned my phone off and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. Saturday morning, I woke up and turned my phone back on and had another text from him saying that he would move out if I paid him $10,000, as that's what he'd paid towards bills whilst he had lived at the house. He paid for half the electric, gas, Wi-Fi, and Sky package. Note, the Sky package is only as expensive as it is because he has to have every sports channel known to man, so his half literally just paid for the sports channels. I'd already asked the solicitor about this though, and he'd assured me that I didn't owe him any money, as he hadn't contributed to a mortgage or any renovations of the house. It was just general expenses. He also knew that I don't have $10,000 just lying around. Let's say I was irritated by this and decided to ring his mum to see if she could talk some sense into him. I'll call his mum Sandra to make it easier. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would speak to him. She called me back about an hour later and asked me to meet her at the house. Rob was on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back till about 10 p.m., so I knew he wasn't there. I met her at the house with Kim, and Sandra said that Rob's brother was on his way back home, and they would have Rob out by the following afternoon. She hadn't even spoken to Rob, just his brother, but she promised he would be out. Sandra then asked me to walk her through the house, showing her exactly what was his and what wasn't, so he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him. The next morning, I got a text from Rob calling me all the names under the sun for getting his mom and brother involved. I blocked him, and a couple of hours later, Sandra texted me to let me know he was out and staying with her. I thanked her, and she told me that she would like to stay in contact, and I happily agreed to this. I went back to my house after work on Monday, changed the alarm code, and my stepdad changed all the locks for me. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house. This will be done over the weekend. Sandra rang me on Tuesday asking if we could meet up, as she had some things she wanted me to know. So we met for lunch that day. It was at this time that she told me her ex was a controlling a-hole who was incredibly selfish, and the selfishness was what she had seen in Rob for so long. That's why she had commented on him being like his father, but she had hoped that was the extent of Rob's attitude, and he hadn't picked up his dad's controlling behavior, which, to be fair, he hadn't up until this whole episode. She had left Rob's dad after he had punched Rob's brother in the face when he was 14 and Rob was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, but one time was enough and she left with the boys. To her knowledge, her ex had never reached out to speak to Rob or his brother, and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I didn't know any of this. All I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture and hadn't been for a long time, but Sandra had thought I knew, and that's why she hadn't told me before. However, she had found out on Sunday night that Rob was back in contact with his father and had been for the past year. His dad had been putting lots of thoughts into Rob's head about how he is the man of the house and his family is all that matters. This had fed into Rob's selfish tendencies and had amplified them tenfold. Sandra said that she had told him to find somewhere else to stay ASAP, as she couldn't even look him in the face. Then Rob and his brother had a huge argument that ended with his brother telling him that as long as Rob is in touch with their dad, then he will have zero contact with him. Even going so far as to tell him to spend Christmas with their dad because Sandra is going to his house and Rob isn't welcome. When Sandra took Rob's brother's side in all this, Rob flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. He then left the house, but came back a couple of hours later looking like he'd been crying. Turns out that his dad doesn't want him living with him, and basically said he could be on the streets for all he cares. He's not putting a roof over a grown man's head. Sandra thinks that Rob is now starting to realize everything he has lost due to him listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. Sandra is incredibly disappointed in him, but he's her son, so she is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out as she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still won't have anything to do with him. She has also told him to stay the hell away from me as I don't need to be brought into this, and he has promised her that he will. Only time will tell if that's true. But I do have him blocked on everything, and if he turns up to the house, I will just call the police to get rid of him. The more Sandra told me about what had been going okay behind my back, the more resolute I have become about wanting nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again if I can help it. So all in all, Rob's life is a shit show, but as long as he stays away from me, then I don't care. I've been spending a lot of time with my sister and her wife as well, and my mom and stepdad, which has been great. I've never really been close to my stepdad, but this has brought us a lot closer together, which has been one huge positive out of all this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I'll get there. There's still a lot of feelings that I need to unpack, and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to really get over all this and don't want to dump this on anyone else right now. For all those asking how Kim is doing, she's doing great. Had a hospital appointment on Monday, and her consultant said her eye is healing, in his words, marvelously. So that's a relief. Thank you to everyone that reached out to me. I hope there won't be any need to update this again, so this should be my final update. For telling my ex that it's not my fault that he's homeless. November 26, 2023. So I 28F posted on relationship advice before about my now ex 29 Mel. The post and update is in my profile, but basically my ex-fiancé wanted me to put his family before mine, even at the cost of my sister's health. I ended up breaking up with him over it, and he was forced to move in with his mom, who then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad, who was twisting his view on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely NC with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I'll call my ex Rob and ex-mom Sandra to make things easier. I hadn't heard from Rob in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had the chain on my door, so opened it with that still attached. No way would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mom isn't speaking to him, and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head. His words, not mine. He asked if I would take him back, or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him, and getting him out the first time only went easy, because his mom stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court, knowing that if he did it could take months to get him out, and then said he would only move if I gave him $10,000. I contacted his mom, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother, and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again, and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and have saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends, and it managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer her other son. Her and Rob had a huge argument about this, and she finally kicked him out. Since then, he's been couch surfing, but with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for them and that I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up, but they said they would but don't have room, and if they had a spare room like me, then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So Reddit, AITA, edit. Just a quick edit as I'm going to bed. I've just spoken with the wife of one of Rob's friends, and she's asked to meet me on my lunch break tomorrow. Apparently, Rob stayed with them for 2 nights before she kicked him out, and there's more going on than what I know of. She's going to tell me the full story tomorrow, but told me that I shouldn't let him anywhere near me and that he's staying in a B&B, so he does at least have a roof over his head right now. I'll try an update after I've spoken to her. Relevant comments. Chemical scarcity. 6'4". NTA. You are lucky you got out when you did. File for a restraining order. Not sure if it's called the same in the UK, as soon as possible. OP. Restraining orders here are ridiculously hard to get. There usually has to be violence involved for one to be issued. I am going to make sure I log everything from now on, though. Update. November 27, 2023. So I posted yesterday about my ex turning up at my house wanting for me to let him move back in with me. I said no, but a couple of friends thought I should let him, and that messed with my head. Rob is my ex. A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that and changed my alarm code, as well as my stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to be meeting with one of Rob's friends' wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative, for sure. I'll call her Nat, 30F, and her husband Zach, 29M. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my coworkers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring Rob with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, Nat was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. Rob rang Zach on Thursday morning, saying he had nowhere to go and could he stay with them for a few days. Zach spoke to Nat, and they agree he could stay in their guest room. Rob went to their house after work, and they had a long talk where Rob told them he has a flat lined up but can't move in till January. Zach and Nat agreed to let him live with them until January, as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking, he had to be quiet when he got back so he didn't wake their daughter, who's 6. He agreed to all this and paid for a Chinese for them all that night. The next day after work, Rob went to meet his dad in the pub for a few pints. When Zach and Nat went to bed, Rob still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by Rob arguing with a woman. Apparently, Rob had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Zach and Nat's house, got his pleasure, and then told her to get dressed and fuck off once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where Rob was saying some horrific shit to her. Nat took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, whilst Zach stayed upstairs arguing with Rob. Once Nat had got rid of the woman, she went back upstairs and tried to calm Zach and Rob down. At this point, Rob decided to take out his frustrations on Nat, calling her a bitch and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich before bursting out laughing, like he'd made her funniest joke ever. This made Zach lost it and pinned Rob to the wall by his throat. Side note, Rob isn't a fighter at all, whereas Zach was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. Nat managed to get Zach to let him go, and Rob was shoved in the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that Nat's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning, Nat got their daughter ready and went to her mom's after telling Zach to get Rob out of their house. Zach agreed, and after Nat left, he woke Rob up and told him to pack his shit and leave. Rob tried to apologize and begged to stay, but Zach was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday, Zach texted Rob to meet up so that they could speak, and they met up in a pub. Zach has been friends with Rob since they were 11, and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of Rob. Basically, Rob has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point, it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand afoot, as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into R's ear, and it's really taken a hold of him. Zach told Nat that he just doesn't recognize Rob anymore. Rob wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he should. When Zach pointed out that Rob's dad is 62, living in a shitty one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since Ari's mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him, and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub, people finish their pints so they can leave and get away from him, Rob was furious. He told Zach that his dad is just misunderstood. Zach responded that people understood his dad, and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation, and Rob left. Zach did find out that Rob does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true, and that he's found a B&B he can stay in till the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Zach and Nat have also decided to go NC with Rob, as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like Rob was on drugs, so I asked Nat what she thought, and she doesn't think so but can't be sure. She and Zach think that Rob is just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that Rob has a burner IG account that he is using to check on my IG, and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents, when I couldn't even help him out to Zach on Sunday. I'd been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pics on IG. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feeling for him anymore other than frustration at how he's acting, and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked Nat for the info and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with Rob, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen Rob's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors that told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they're part of the friend group, and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently at my sister's, and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend, so I will be on and off for the next few hours if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the votes and giving me some perspective. Reddit isn't all bad. Relevant comments. Puddle Lilac again. The misogyny and abuse probably runs in Rob's family. I wonder if on some level the son adopts the ways of the father so he will be accepted and loved. Rob's father is probably not capable of love, so if the son acts horribly and is given praise for it, he might misinterpret it as love and finally figures he's getting his father's approval. Just a theory. Who knows what actually goes on in these sick families? Sad. OP. I was talking about this to my sister before, and she said that she thinks he's behaving like he is to get some sort of validation from his dad. I knew that he missed having a dad growing up as we had talked about our shared experience of that. So you are probably right in this regard. I just know that one day he will wake up and realize everything he's lost because of his and his dad's actions. I also don't think it helps that he wasn't abused by his dad. His mom and elder brother protected him from it. So his memories of his dad from his younger years are largely positive. For anyone that's still around, December 19th, 2023. Still have people reaching out to see if I'm okay. A few hated me just using initials, so R is Rob. I really hope that I wouldn't have to update again, but I've just had a call from one of Rob's friends, and it looks like he's going to be spending Christmas in prison. Apparently, he went out on Saturday night with his dad, and they got into an argument which turned physical. Rob isn't a fighter, however, he is bigger and stronger than his dad, and it ended with his dad falling backwards and hitting his head off a wall, knocking him unconscious. The staff in the pub called the police and an ambulance, but Rob left before they got there. Rob's dad had to go to hospital, where he still is. I'm unsure of his exact injuries, but they're not life-threatening. He must also be awake as he is pressing charges against Rob. However, they won't keep him in unless absolutely essential at this time of year. Rob was arrested on Sunday morning at the B&B he's been staying at and had to appear in magistrate's court on Monday. Due to him not having a fixed address right now and the fact that his dad is still in hospital, he has been remanded on a Section 18 with intent. Unless he can find permanent address to go to, then he won't be getting out until his trial at Crown Court. I know his mom is already at his brother's over 250 miles away, so I don't think she will be able to help right now. Finding this out has actually given me a sense of peace right now. I've been trying to ignore it, but the chance of him turning up and spoiling Christmas has been at the back of my mind ever since he turned up at my house. I'm hoping he stays in over Christmas so that I can just relax. OP on Section 18 in her area. OP. Section 18 is an assault charge. A Section 18 with intent is the next level up and is classed as intending to and causing grievous bodily harm to someone. I've been told that if found guilty, then it's usually a multiple-year prison sentence. Another mini update, December 23rd, 2023. I went round to N and Z, hereby known as Nat and Zach, to drop off a present for their daughter, a bottle of Bell's for Zach and a bottle of Prosecco for Nat for Christmas, and had a cup of tea with them, whilst they filled me in on what's going on. Rob will be in over Christmas, but will likely get out early January. His lawyer is trying to get the charges reduced from Section 18 with intent to a Section 20. I only found out today that a Section 18 with intent is one step down from attempted murder, and you're looking at double digits in prison if you get found guilty. Section 20 is a lot less severe and is usually a 2-year suspended sentence for first-time offenders, which he is. His lawyer has said that if he pleads guilty to the Section 20, then CPS will lower the charges to get this one over and done with ASAP, as the courts are ridiculously backed up in the UK right now, and prisons are full. Zach went to the B&B he was staying at and got Rob's stuff, which is now sat in his garage, as one last favor to Rob, Zach's words. He can't get in touch with me without my consent whilst he is locked away. The prison literally has to ring me and ask if it is okay that I get put on his approved call list, and only then is he allowed to ring me, which won't be happening. I've also spoken to his mom, who has basically washed her hand of him for the time being. She thinks that he needs to learn his lesson, and maybe spending Christmas in a cell will teach him how much he's lost the plot. She has spoken to him and said that he's now saying the right things, but only time will tell if he means them. He is talking about moving to be near his brother to get away from their dad, so maybe he has seen the light. His brother has refused to go onto his call list, so Rob can't contact him, so I don't know how that will work. As for his dad, he is still in hospital with a broken hip and has had to have surgery to fix it. The broken bone and head injury is why the charges are so high right now. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, knowing he can't ruin my Christmas. I'm just about to pack everything into the car and go and stay at my mom's until January 2nd, but thought I'd finish the year off, letting everyone who's helped me and supported me through this know what's going on. Merry Christmas to everyone that celebrates it, and hope everyone is doing well. OOP on her sister, Kim, due to the emergency surgery that took place. OP. She's doing great, not gotta go back to the hospital till end of January as they're that happy with her. Still got a long road to recovery as the stitches won't be out for at least another 6 months, probably longer. She and her wife will be at Mum's all over Christmas as well. They're gonna be here tomorrow, and staying till after New Year as well. She is at the football today in hospitality as a treat from our stepdad, so she was buzzing this morning. Hope you have a great time as well, and a great New Year. New update. Final update. April 13th, 2024. Hi all. Sorry it's been a while since my last update, but I wanted everything to be finished before I updated again. Rob spent Christmas on remand in prison. He didn't get out until the second week of January, and that was only because his mum agreed to let him stay with her again. He had his plea hearing the first week of February, where he pleaded guilty to a Section 20 assault. He then had to wait until last week to get his sentencing court date. I didn't know how much actually goes into sentencing. They had to get a victim impact statement, a pre-sentencing report from probation, statements from his mum and brother. His barrister even reached out to me to give a statement saying that we had broken up and I'd asked him to leave the house. He used our breakup as an extenuating circumstance, saying that because of the breakup of our relationship and him losing his home, that had seriously impacted him mental health. The statements from his mum and brother also confirmed that he had lived in an abusive home when he was young, so he claimed he had PTSD because of that. These were all read out at his sentencing. He was going to get 3 years, but the judge knocked time off for pleading guilty and for mitigating circumstances. That left him with a 16-month sentence that was suspended for 18 months. As part of the conditions for his release, he isn't allowed anywhere near his dad. He has to go to counseling for his supposed PTSD, and he isn't allowed to drink alcohol. He even has an ankle monitor on that tests his sweat every half an hour for alcohol and will alert probation if he gets a positive result. Luckily for him, his boss has let him go and work at their main location in the city that's half an hour away from here, and probation were happy for him to live there as well. He moved into a flat there this week, so I don't have to worry about running into him. I haven't spoken to him at all, and I don't want to. He has tried reaching out through a kook of friends, but they've respected my decision and told him to move on with his life. However, I did speak to his mum yesterday and she said that she thinks he's depressed, but so far he's doing okay. She's the one I got all of this information from. It's a strange mix of emotion for me towards him, as I still care on some level, just not enough to keep him in my life. I know I need to keep him away from me as I can never see him like I did at this time last year. It's crazy to think that it's only been a year since we got engaged. So much has happened. Other than those mixed emotions, I'm doing well. I've been hanging out with my sister and her wife a lot more, as well as catching up with friends. I'm still working at the same place, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the people asking about my sister, she's doing good. She had a setback last month, but she seems to be over that now, and has just been approved to have some form of newish stem cell treatment at the UK's biggest eye hospital. Which is fab news. She tried to explain it to me, but it involves them taking her blood and putting it into her eye, which grossed me out, so I told her to stop. However, because she's my sister, she then sent me pictures of what they do, and Mum had to step in and tell her to stop. No matter how old we get, I don't think we will ever stop trying to annoy each other. So all in all, I think we're all moving on with life. Unless there's something big happen, then this should be my last post. I really want to thank everyone for their kind words and support. This has restored my faith that there are still good people out there. Story 4. AITA for walking out of my birthday dinner after my sister and her boyfriend announced they were getting married. This was a couple weeks ago, but I still think about it. I 16F had my sweet 16th a couple weeks ago. Nothing too crazy, and that. But my parents and my extended family all came over, and we went out to a nice restaurant that my parents had booked. A lot of my family, cousins and nieces and nephews were there, so it was a lot of people. After we ate dinner and it was time to blow out my candles, my mom insisted I open some of my presents so I don't have to carry them home. My aunties and uncles and grandparents gave me my presents, after opening their present and saying thank you, and that. My older sister and her boyfriend gave me their present. Inside their box they gave me was a "Will you be my maid of honor" card on top of the present. I, obviously confused, looked at them with a weird expression on my face. My mom came over to look in the box as well, and she loudly said, "You're getting engaged." My sister squealed with excitement and told us all about her proposal and how they're already wedding planning. She said it was the perfect time to announce their engagement since all our family was here. When my sister asked if I was going to say yes, I just nodded and excused myself to the bathroom. No, I didn't go to the bathroom. I ended up walking out and went to a nearby park. A couple hours passed by, and my dad pulled over on the curb and told me to get in with him. I expected him to yell at me, but he ended up taking me out for ice cream, and we sat at the lake and just talked. When I got home, I saw my cake on the counter, and my mom got up and started yelling at me about how I wasted money, wasted my family's time. My sister and her BF came out and told me how mean I am for doing that to them. My sister ended up saying that my birthday wasn't as important as her wedding, and my mother agreed. My dad told my sister and her BF to get out, and ended up talking to my mom about how they could have checked with me beforehand instead of announcing it. So, AITA, verdict not the asshole. Relevant comments, Haran Olympia 123. Info out of being nosy. Did they get you an actual birthday gift, or was your presence in their wedding the gift they gave you? You are NTA for being hurt, and your mom saying a wedding is more important than their child's birthday is mean. Ope. Basically just a shitty box, with the maid of honor card and little accessories she wanted us to wear on her wedding day. Kind of like stuff you'd put to give to your bridesmaids as well, if that makes sense. Love Chicago. Completely unrelated, but I am curious about the statement. My mom insisted I open some of my presents so I don't have to carry them home. Once you open your presents, do you leave them there? Oop. I just realized I make no sense whatsoever. I just remember that my mom was complaining about how they take up too much space in the car, and she didn't want me to have to carry them inside, hence why I opened them at the restaurant. XLFC. Did you confirm that your mom knew that your sister was going to do this, cause she sucks, and I would talk to your dad and show him these comments? He seems solid, and your mom sucks. NTA, damn girl. I feel so sorry for you. What a shitty thing your sister and mom did. Oop. My mom denied the fact that she knew anything about my sister's engagement as they were arguing about nonstop. XLLFC. So was your mom mad at your sister as well? Oop. No. She thinks that it was a nice surprise, and that I should have been appreciative instead of walking out and wasting everyone's time. Strider Vulcane. I would like to know what the rest of the family thought of this. Are they on your sister and mother's side, or on your side? OP. My sister and her fiancé received texts from my grandparents and a few aunties and uncles saying it was a shitty move to pull, and they should have asked before announcing their engagement, although they are happy for my sister and her fiancé as a wedding is a big deal. They just said that it wasn't the right time as she wouldn't like it if someone else announced that on her birthday. But nobody's on any side and they've moved on from it. Dreamless Eamed Sleeper. Are you still planning on being the MOH? After what she did and said to you, he fiancé too? Ope. Definitely not. It's a huge responsibility to be a MOH in a wedding. Help planning the wedding as well. And I think they take care of the bridal party or whatever as well. I've got no clue on how to plan a wedding, especially at my age, but I'll probably be one of her bridesmaids. Huge. C-Sort 6571. You did not explain why you left or what you did talk about with your father. Oop. I left because I was upset. Not trying to sound like a brat or anything, but everyone's attention just turned towards my sister and her boyfriend, a fiancé. Even though it was my birthday and most people look forward to their sweet 16th, I just had to get out of there because I knew I'd cry. My dad and I just talked about what happened. He asked if I was all right and was telling me that him and my mom didn't even know about her engagement. AITA for walking out of my birthday dinner after my sister and her boyfriend announced their engagement. Update: OCT 14, 2022. I am grateful for all the comments and your opinions, and I showed my dad all of the comments and what people wrote. He says yous are all hilarious and appreciates you all. He was laughing at all the stuff I should do at the wedding. My dad and I sat my mom and sister down just so I could explain to her that I won't be her MOH, as it's a big responsibility, and that it should be in the hands of an adult instead of a 16-year-old. Although she tried to convince me further, I still said no. She starts growling me, saying I was ruining her wedding, and that her and her fiancé went out of their way to buy me a gift, which was her proposal box to me. Unfortunately, my mom and sister started telling me how cruel it was to ruin a wedding, and that it's not about me, it's about the bride. My dad ended up arguing with my mom about how it isn't cruel and no 16-year-old should have to plan and help organize a wedding, as that is what MOTs do, and it would be too stressful and should go to an adult instead. My mom started arguing with him about how it's not my day as I already had mine, and I should go forward with my sister's plan as it's about her and not me. My dad brought the birthday up and argued with my mom and my sister that she ruined my birthday, and if she didn't try make it all about herself, we wouldn't be arguing. I don't want to go into too much detail of what went down, but basically my sister started crying, and my mom called me a brat and a disgrace, and how I've officially ruined my bitchy sister's wedding. I'm now staying at my grandparents' house until things cool down at home. I don't think they will TBH. Since my mom tells me any chance she gets that I'm a brat and a horrible sister for not helping my big sister out for her special day. My dad is with my mom trying to sort her out, and my other grandparents, my mom's parents, are talking with her as my dad told them what happened. I'm not going to be her maid of honor, nor her bridesmaid since she's a dick. I'm not sure if I'll even go to her wedding. I'll have to just see what my dad thinks about it. My grandparents, my dad's parents who I'm staying with ATM, are talking to my dad about considering divorcing or taking a break from my mom, as she and my sister are creating a toxic environment for him and I to live in, and that after all these years they see no reason for him to live with such a woman. I don't really know what to think about it, and I feel kind of lost, but I thought I'd update y'all. Relevant comments. Sweet jacket. Your sister and her fiancé went out of their way make you a birthday present that had nothing to do with you. It was all about themselves. I'm curious, are there any pictures from your day that you would want to put in an album for yourself? Oop. Only a few, one of my parents and I, one with my sister, and the rest are just my family, but just one with me by myself. Story 5. AITA for falling out of love with my wife after she took a 7-week vacation. I, 32M, have been married to my wife, 30F, for 4 years, and we've been together for 8. She is a stay-at-home mom. We have LR-ish twins, 1F, 2M, which was incredibly taxing for my wife. She wanted a solo vacation break for a few weeks, where she would travel different states, visit her high school and college friends, go to concerts, and do a lot of fun stuff. She asked if I would be fine with it, asked if she could make it maybe a couple of weeks shorter, because 7 weeks managing our 2 children alone sounded really daunting, especially since work was also getting taxing recently. I do work remote, so at least that worked in my favor. My wife and I discussed for a couple of days, and I ultimately agreed with her that she did deserve a break because of what she has been through the past few years. And so she took her vacation. The first week managing our children alone was extremely difficult, and I did feel like I was losing my mind, but I survived. My sister came over to help me from the second week on. She was honestly a lifesaver, and I will be eternally grateful for her. I never directly asked her to help me, but I guess I indirectly did because when she video called me the end of the first week, I basically broke down in tears. So from the second week on, my sister stayed over at my house to help with my children, and a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders. I also was really able to focus on work and meet my deadlines. To be brutally honest, I did not miss my wife at all. I was emotionally and mentally relaxed, and also had a lot of fun with my children and my sister. I felt a sense of betrayal that my wife had actually gone through with the 7-week vacation. I slowly fell out of love with my wife. When my wife came back from her vacation, she was super refreshed and recharged. But to be honest, I was a bit indifferent. My wife tried to initiate sex the first night she came back, which I rejected because I said I wasn't feeling it. The subsequent days I had the same level of indifference in our day-to-day life, and she probably noticed it but didn't say anything. A week later, she asked me why I was like this, and I told her I don't love her anymore. She apologized for taking the 7-week vacation and asked if there was anything she could do to fix it. I told her no. We pretty much went through the motions next couple of weeks before I finally decided that I wanted a divorce. She seemed devastated when I brought up divorce, which surprised me because I already told her I don't love her anymore. She asked if we could do couples therapy or marriage counseling first before I started looking for a divorce lawyer, and I told her I needed some time to think about it. I spent a few days thinking about, and I am still leaning towards a divorce because I basically don't love my wife anymore, and I don't think marriage counseling can fix it. AITA for falling out of love with my wife because she's 7-week vacation. Update April 13, 2024. Update. AITA for falling out of love with my wife after she took a 7-week vacation. I posted my original post last night and went to sleep immediately after. I have deleted it for anonymity's sake, but it was preserved here. https://www.reddit.com/gr Reddit on wiki comments 1c20ht. I woke up this morning, spent an hour reading the comments, and decided that I at least owe it to our children to try couples therapy before considering divorce. I told my wife of my decision, and she was really happy about it. But I also told her I don't expect too much to come out of it, because I just didn't love my wife anymore, and wasn't sure if couple counseling would fix that. I want to clarify a couple of things. Money was not an issue. I am lucky to be working in a high-paying, albeit stressful job. It really didn't bother me how much money my wife spent on her trip. The main issue was, I was emotionally and mentally overwhelmed managing 2 children, while I was also working full-time, albeit remote. My wife was also specifically against daycare for personal reasons. By the end of the first week, I had lost my sanity and basically broke down in tears when my sister video called me. My sister had enough time to come over and help me from the 2nd week on, and she really wanted to because it gave her a purpose in life. She has no plans to be in the workforce, and she is pretty much set in life because of my father's money. I did ask my father to not leave any money behind for me and give everything to my sister, because I was already in the workforce and had a good job. Relevant comments. Icy Helicopter 2672. Did you or the kids have any contact with your wife during this 7-week vacation? Oopie. She called me 2 times during the entirety of her vacation. Story 6. New update. My F32 husband's M32 new female friend sent a text that gave me the ick, and I'm questioning her intentions. Am I being silly? So I'll start by saying I'm generally quite a secure person and have never felt like I had any issues around this until I read a message sent to my husband yesterday. And I'm kinda spiraling. Sorry, this may be long. For some backstory, my husband does downhill biking. Has done since he was very young, knows his stuff. He's out there every day. Generally rides with the same group of guys, but they mostly stick to weekends. My husband goes out every day of the week. Luckily, because his job allows him to. If he's out on his own, generally weekdays, and the dogs are free, he'll take the dogs. They love it. So around 6 months ago, he was out in the morning with the dogs and ended up coming home earlier than usual. While he was out, he found this girl who fell off and had badly injured her arm or wrist. As you can imagine, he's done the same numerous times, knew exactly what to do and where to go to get seen quicker. He got her to the car park, packed the dogs and bikes up, and took her to the GP, who referred her to hospital, and he came home. All good. Around a week after this, one of the guys he rides with sent him a screenshot of a post in a Facebook group that was made for people specifically who build and maintain the bike trails. It went something like, I'm looking for someone called, insert husband's name here, who helped me last week when I fell and got me to hospital. He drove a husband's truck and had 3 dogs, then listed our dogs' names. She had posted in a few groups before being linked to the group for the trail builders, who my husband goes out there with. My husband isn't on social media, so he said he could send her his number. She texted him to double check she had the right person. He said it was, and that he was glad she was feeling better, and he was happy to help. She offered him money or to take him for lunch, which he declined and just said again that he was happy to help. They text back and forth every now and then, her initiating, and it's mostly, "Hey, how are you? Hope you're well," etc. Until she starts getting better and can ride again, it turns to, "Hey, we should hit the trails sometime." Now, without tooting his horn for him, he's very good. Used to ride competitively when he was younger, same with much of the guys he rides with. Most people at the park know who they are, and generally, if they hear them coming, will just get to the side and watch them pass. He tries to decline her offer in a way not to offend her, but there's no way she can keep up with them. There's a section that's just big jumps to practice on. He says maybe next time he's on those, he'll give her a shout and they can meet up there. Eventually that happens and he gives her a few tips, which then turns into her texting him more often about biking, asking for him to tutor her and just general stuff. This goes on for the next couple months. There seems to be a friendship starting. I've never once had any concerns about this and was quite happy for him to continue, and they do. So yesterday, Monday, he went out with the dogs and bumped into her. Said they spoke for a while and went a cycle with the dogs to wind down before he came home. She started texting him when he got home, and I can see these messages coming through the iPad as I was using it. To be clear, he's not hiding the texts. He openly leaves his phone lying around. No passcode. Lets our daughter play on it. Happy for me to use it. Doesn't get weird or secretive about it in the slightest. He knows the iPad and laptop are linked to his phone, and it can all be seen by anyone using them. He has never gave me cause for concern. It's her intentions I'm not too sure on at this point. So anyway, the dogs. We have 3 working gun dogs used in the fields regularly, and while they can look like they're running riot down these trails, they are extremely well trained and tuned in to whatever my husband is doing, which becomes more apparent when he's not on the trails, and they're following, watching his every move. These texts started on about the dogs for a bit when she sent a text which ended in the following: "Like a slave looking to please their master." Admittedly, I don't care for emojis in the texting garb people use nowadays. I don't even know what the face means, frankly. But something about this made me feel icky, and I feel like there's an undertone going on here. He replied, but seemed to ignore that last comment. However, this caused me to look back on her communication, and feel like I've noticed a few red flags. She always initiates. If she doesn't get a reply, she seems to keep sending messages until he replies. Not once has she ever referenced or acknowledged the fact that he's married or has a family. Even when he mentioned that he's been away for my birthday or that he's going to our daughter's dancing show. She'll change the subject as if she's pretending we don't exist or to close down any mention of us. She often makes excuses for them to meet up, one-on-one. I'm sure there's more, but I don't want to scour through every message and feed into this more than I already have in case it's nothing. But am I crazy for thinking there may be something going on with her? I don't want to bring it up in case it is nothing, and I look like I'm being paranoid. It just isn't sitting right. I'm also pregnant and the hormones are doing their thing. Should I say something? Or leave it and monitor this more closely for a bit? Or is this the effect of a 30-something pregnant mom whose husband seems to be aging like a fine wine, and any female he meets doing what he loves, being in amazing shape due to the hobby? Relevant comments. Usually right too. I am kind of like your husband. I do a lot of helping people, in a different vein though. And there are a lot of rather lonely and awkward people out there who just keep messaging once they have my contact info, men and women. I think you've handled this with grace, but I think it's totally reasonable for you to have a convo with hubby and just say, dude, she's pretty pushy and you're not doing anything wrong. But I'd appreciate it if you'd shut her down and just tell her that you're not in a position to be a coach and your ride time is focused, so you can't help her. She sounds a little starstruck and needy, but he's not doing anything wrong here, so I wouldn't make it a big hairy deal. Oop, thank you. I just don't want to be the pregger wife who's demanding he blocks women because I'm making things up in my head. Lizardpetty. He ran into her while he was out walking his dogs. Was that a planned meeting? Does she live near you? Ah, hell nah. That's stalker behavior. He needs to cut her off now. Oop. No, the bike park. He was up with the dogs when she spotted them and called one over. Honestly, I have no idea where she lives. I know very little about her other than she's much younger than me. Inevitable, rate 652. Totally not on topic, but what are gun dogs? Sounds like your husband is just being nice, but that chic is being scandalous. Sometimes men don't pick up on this stuff, so I'd bring it to his attention and talk about how you both should handle this psycho, disrespectful woman. Oop. Hunting dogs. Ours are used weekly for flushing, retrieving. Thank you. I've had enough comments to make me feel confident enough that I'm not being dramatic. We'll be talking to him about it once our daughter's in bed tonight, and go from there. Top comments. Exploding Whale 17. It sounds like your husband is uninterested in her, and she is pushing boundaries. Tell your husband you feel uncomfortable. He may welcome a chance to strategize how to push her away more clearly. It would probably help if he told her he was busy with his wife and children, and not interested in connecting, although he's sure she'll find a group to bike with. He could block her if he feels he needs to. He sounds like a great guy. Congrats on the coming baby. Update, Reddit, April 3rd, 2024. It escalated quickly. First post, https www.reddit.com r relationship advice Valparas Azaz TFHD8Q6T. So my last post got a lot more responses than I thought it would get. I wasn't going to post an update, but feel like I owe it to all the people telling me to trust my gut. For those asking why my husband hadn't been more abrupt with her, in a nutshell, he always tries to keep the peace. I downplayed how well-known he is in our town. He comes from a well-known family in our area and was a downhill rider in the UCI and features in various YouTube channels. People come here specifically for the bike trails, and typically wherever he goes, there's usually a handful of people who recognize him and want to say hello. It's not a huge town. Everyone knows everyone kind of place. And like anyone, he would never want people to come away from any interaction with him with a sour taste in their mouth. After our daughter was in bed, I spoke with my husband, told him my thoughts, and he agreed she was being inappropriate, and that he in no way done or said anything that would indicate he was all right with it. He hoped by ignoring it, she would get the hint and leave him be. He didn't want to make things awkward or embarrass anyone, and admitted he probably should have said something. So after reading everyone's comments, there were loads of amazing ways people suggested shutting her down, which in hindsight would have been an amazing way to stop her in her tracks. However, he didn't want to ruffle feathers, so we went with the, we're starting to get ready for the baby and have lots to do, prepare and simply don't have the time or energy to be spent on the bikes or meetups, and he will be unavailable to her for the foreseeable suggestions. He typed it up, handed it to me for my approval, and I hit send. Minutes later, his phone pings. I'm in the kitchen, he's in the living room, and I see his eyebrows raise, and he just looks at me. I go over and he just hands me the phone. The fucking neck on this girl astounds me. She replied, okay. Do you think we could meet up quickly tomorrow? My heart sank, and I knew exactly what that meant. I burst into tears. In my head, this was the start of my world crumbling. My husband tried calming me down and asked me what I'd like him to do, block her there and then, or ask what she wants to see him for. I wish I just told him to block her, but for some reason I wanted to know more. He replied asking what meeting up would achieve. She just says there's stuff she would like to talk to him about, face to face. I felt like I was literally being punched in the chest and being winded at this point. He eventually gets the point across that he is not going to meet with her and drags it out of her. She tells him that at some point feelings started, that turned into fantasies, and that basically he could do whatever he wanted to her, that I didn't need to know about it, and she would be happy to keep it that way. As she put it, our thing. It was more graphic than I'm willing to type. I felt like I was still keeping a level head on it, until this point I lashed out. Got very, very angry. Started crying uncontrollably. My body was vibrating with anger. I've barely slept. Woke up crying. Felt like absolute shit all day today. I've already got in touch with our friends who run these Facebook groups she joined and asked them to remove her and make sure she doesn't join again. My husband replied last night and told me it's sorted and I don't have to worry about her. I didn't see the text he sent, but it's there on the iPad. but I can't bring myself to even open the iMessage app after seeing what I saw. It's not fair that someone thinks they can just do something like that, regardless of how it's going to impact an entire family. Currently, I don't want him leaving the house. I don't want him to ever go back to the trails. I don't want the dogs even going up there. The fact she has even touched my dogs makes me sick. So there we are. I still feel like my life's slipping away from me, like someone's trying to steal it. My confidence is shattered, my eyes sting, my head hurts from crying. Don't feel like eating. Don't think I've ever felt as low as I do just now. Husband's trying his best to comfort me, but it will take a while, I guess. He feels very guilty, despite me telling him he's done nothing wrong. I can't believe how quickly my life just changed with a stupid text. So thank you to everyone telling me to believe my gut, and everyone else who took the time to comment. Edit. I just want to add, I'm not controlling my husband. I'm not holding him hostage. He had to take them out today. The bike park is almost in our back garden. I'm describing how I feel just now, like it's a personal attack on me and my family. And I know this happens all over the world. My eyes were never open to it. This man's baby is about to burst out of my body. I don't feel attractive in any sense of the word right now. I feel I'm well within my rights to be a little distraught after seeing a text from a much younger, much fitter girl describing in graphic detail the things she wants my husband to do to her. Relevant comments. Brief horror. You'll be all right, and honestly take comfort that this is probably a lot of pregnancy hormones, and your husband loves the absolute soul out of you. He handled it well, so well, public figure or not, and he's by your side. He's been transparent and upfront and kind. She tried to crash the party and failed miserably. He's all yours and he wants it to stay that way. I hope you feel better and can do some rationalizing in the meantime. SoxFan21, your life didn't change. You're fine. If nothing else, life got better because you now know that your husband would rather be loyal to you than carry on a secret affair with some hornball side piece. Women pursue married men. Men pursue married women. It happens, but your spouse is rock solid, so make sure your actions match your words, pertaining to how he did nothing wrong. Good luck with the baby. Cranky Southerner. Did your life really change because you found out someone wanted to sleep with your husband and would do so despite the fact that he is married and has a family? Do you think she's the only one who would be willing to do that? Do you think there are no men out there who would be willing to sleep with you? Your marriage works because you and your husband made a commitment to one another. That commitment is what your lives together are built upon. It's a promise, really, that you made to each other. And it looks like both you and your husband are committed to keeping that promise. It's only natural that other people will find our partners attractive. They see in our partners the same things we see in our partners. Some of those people will have no qualms about destroying a marriage or a family if it means they get to satisfy their desires. The only thing that stands in their way is the promise you and your husband made to each other. The only thing that's different now is that you know the name of one of the people willing to destroy your family for her desires. Your husband seems intent on keeping his promise to you. I really don't think you have anything to worry about. New update. Final update. Reddit. April 13th, 2024. Hey everyone, my last 2 posts got so much attention, and I'm still receiving lots of messages asking what's happened since and if I know what my husband told her. I'm also getting a few messages saying my previous posts are now deleted and can't be seen, but they're still there when I check. Not sure what's going on there. Anyway, an update before I log out of this account. So I had so many people telling me I'm crazy, overreacting, need therapy, etc. I get it, I probably was overreacting, but also feel like some people just don't understand the places your head can go when you're heavily pregnant. I know what this girl looks like, and alongside my current self, had no idea why my husband would not take her up on her offer. I'd done nothing but compare myself to her, and couldn't understand why he would stay with me if he was getting offers like that. Even despite my husband making me feel very loved and attractive every day, I convinced myself he found me repulsive, and that he would leave me. Madness, I know. But I also had moments of clarity. It's been an emotional few weeks as it is. Did you read the text your husband sent to her? No, I haven't. I ended up deleting the chat from the iPad because I didn't want to see her messages. He told me something along the lines of, "I've no idea how or if I've gave you the signal that I was looking for something like that, but I can assure you I'm not, and I don't appreciate the attempt to pull my family apart. Delete my number. Don't try to contact me. Do not try and talk to me if you see me out and about. You've caused a great amount of stress to my family, and especially my wife, who is expecting very soon, and has access to every message you've sent to me. Leave me alone." Lots of people also commented that I've handled this way better than they would have. Truth be told, I'm constantly seesawing between trying to forget this even happened and texting or calling her myself. But I realize the longer I leave it to do this, the more pathetic I'll look. Trying to take the high road, but I'm not going to lie, this has been extremely hard. I also want to focus on the baby and not this right now. All in though, I feel much better than I did a few days ago. One thing I've taken from this, and far too many people reached out to me to say the same, is how amazing my husband really is. I feel like I've taken him for granted after reading some stories people have shared privately, and I'm so lucky to share my life with him. So that's it. I didn't plan on making an update again, but I've still been getting so many messages asking the same things. But this will be the last. Thanks for all the responses, and the few crazies also sending me horrible messages. I know you're reading this. Take care. Ope on if her husband is well known in the biking community in their area, and if he has a social media profile and should set up boundaries for personal reasons. Oopie. So this is something we've actually joked about. He's not a celebrity by any means, but just the area we're in, people come here specifically for biking, and he gets recognized a lot. And 99% of the time it's people from out of town who want to stop and say, hi, etc. So there's never really been the worry of any nutters stalking him. And the biking people as a whole seem to be very down-to-earth people who just like being outside. It's never brought up any worries until now. But thank you. We will look into something like this.